Hi, everyone. We'll just get started in a few minutes and wait for everyone else to join in. But just wanted to make sure you all can hear me. Can you say yes in the chat button below if you can? Perfect. It looks like you all can hear me. Sit tight and we'll get started just a couple minutes after 9 o'clock. All right. Hello, and thank you all for joining our expert webinar series. Today we will focus on how architects and designers are able to utilize Fieldwire. First, I just wanted to make sure that everyone can hear me. It sounds like everyone can so far. I also just wanted to make sure you can see my screen. And then I do have a couple other housekeeping items before we jump into the fun stuff. First, when everyone joins, you will be muted, so please use the question at the bottom to ask any questions as they come up. Today, I will review 3 workflows and will pause after each workflow to answer questions. There will also be time at the end for questions and answers. There are quite a few attendees, so if I don't get to your question during the session, no need to worry, I'll reach out after the webinar. A little bit about me. I'm Andie on the construction team here at Fieldwire. I started my career in architecture at a vertically integrated modular company. Those of you that are familiar with the Bay Area know a bit about the housing crisis. My big focus was how to design something that was scalable yet had architectural integrity. I found that in order to achieve these two things, I needed to be close at work with all the consultants in addition to those who were building the project. Now at Fieldwire, I work with numerous teams to incorporate their current workflows into the platform to increase coordination and increase the outcome of their projects. Fieldwire was built to streamline job site coordination in the field. In my experience, designers are at the crux of coordination throughout the project lifecycle, which is why I think these three workflows are the most important for our design clients. One thing I often hear from our architecture and design clients is the frustration from the number of different platforms they have to use from project to project. Because there are so many systems, the learning curve and time spent learning something new is high. As a solution, our clients have found our easy-to-use interface as a way to standardize the system they use from project to project. Additionally, they have expanded their usage from purely field coordination to using the system to coordinate in early stages of the project. As a result, they are able to capture and document all the work in one spot versus having emails and one-off forms of communication. Today, first I will review how to set up a project and manage documents throughout all phases of the project. Next, because Fieldwire is focused on job site coordination, I'll cover the CA role and how you can use Fieldwire for your observation reports to document existing conditions, progress, punch items, and other observations. This will give you a good introduction of our task module and how we can use tasks retroactively in the field to capture information. As a more proactive use of our task module, I'll discuss how we can implement Fieldwire earlier within a project to coordinate work and keep record of what and why certain design decisions were made. In this first workflow, I will discuss how you are able to manage documents throughout the life cycle of a project. Drawings are in a constant state of change, which is why they are always a challenge to manage. I'll discuss the upload process and how to save architects and designers time, how to name different versions of the drawing throughout all phases of the project, and then how to quickly review drawings in Fieldwire prior to publishing them out, and finally, how to use Fieldwire to organize your specifications in an easy-to-view format. So I'm going to jump on over to our web platform. So today I'm going to set the scene. Right now, I am an architect or designer that is working in the office. I wanted to set the scene because right now I'm signed in to my web computer on my laptop, looking via the browser field platform. The reason that this is important is because a lot of the setup and getting things ready to go to coordinate work in the field is going to be done in the office. I'll first start with plans, but one thing I wanted to talk about before I get into it is just the interface and the difference between the web and mobile platform. You'll notice over here on the left-hand side, this bar is going to remain consistent, which allows you to easily switch from the web to the mobile platforms. I'll start with this Plans tab, and here I'm able to upload and add a new project whenever I start. I can drag and drop a single or multi-page PDF directly into this gray box, or use one of these integrations. The one that I wanted to point out for architects and designers is this Revit plugin. The reason why I wanted to point it out is because now with this plugin, instead of having to print drawings from Revit and then upload them into Fieldwire, you are now able to streamline that process and publish them directly from Revit to Fieldwire. These integrations over here are what we call and have a two-way sync integration with. What this means is if some of your team is in the office and referencing drawings basically on a different system, but you're using Dropbox, Box, or OneDrive, you can push and pull the information from Fieldwire to these integrations so that everyone has the most current drawings and there's no confusion of what is the correct set. So whatever your preferred upload method is, you can upload your drawings And what Fieldwire will do is break them up into these different thumbnails. As soon as you upload the drawings, you do have the capability to specify the specific folder names and the way that you want to organize your project. These are all alphanumeric, and you can organize these by different trades or whatever works best for your company. When you do upload your plans, Fieldwire will scan the plan, and what it's doing is looking for the sheet number. In this case, this sheet number is A201-1, and what it's going to do with this information is 1, name the drawing, 2, it's going to scan the rest of the drawing looking for any callouts, sections, elevations, and details, and it'll automatically hyperlink those sheets to your callouts and elevations. For example, if I zoom in here, I can see that this elevation calls for A3.01. I'm able to go into this, grab the information from the elevation sheet that I need, get into the rabbit hole of gathering that information, but then quickly be able to jump back to where I was before. The last thing that it'll do with this piece of information of the sheet number is it'll recognize when you upload new sheet numbers. This being said, if you're in the design phases of a project and you have already done 100% DD and now have your 50% CD set, it's going to recognize this drawing number and confirm with you that this is in fact a new version. When it recognizes this number and you confirm that it is a new version, it's going to automatically slip sheet it. Down here, you can see that my most current version is this 50% CD, but I can go back and check and reference my 100% CD or DD and above. If I do want to go back and reference exactly what had changed, I could go to my 100% DD set, and you'll note that this watermark follows you around the whole time to make sure that all consultants and everyone collaborating in the design knows that this is outdated and only for reference. These numbers will come in as dates, and you can change these to fit your needs and how you guys organize your project sets and deliverables. The other thing you can do on both web and mobile is compare these sheets. A couple things to note about this is you can compare different versions as well as compare different sheets that have been uploaded to Fieldwire. You'll notice over here that this 50% CD version is in blue and my 100% outdated version is in red. I'm going to go ahead and compare these, and I'll show you what these colors mean. A couple things to note on the design and why this is important is you can use this compare option to make sure that all of your markups and notes before you print out a project were in fact picked up. You can also use it to make sure that before you publish out drawings, you have gone back and caught all of the different changes that were made, highlighted them with your version and delta changes. So in this example here, there's a lot going on this project, so I can turn off my layers, just toggle these on and off. Now I can easily see, okay, this wall over here has been added, this red wall has been removed, but if I zoom in a little bit closer, I'll notice that, hey, we didn't actually cloud any of these changes. We need to go back, cloud these, and assign the delta number to them. I also know that we did a lot of our markups in red, and that during one of our coordination meetings, we talked about adding some walls here. Here, I'm able to say, okay, I did in fact pick up this markup. I can now remove it and move on with the design and coordination process. The last thing I wanted to talk about was how you're able to get your specifications and other information into the project as you need it. So I'm going to go back to my All Plans tab, and what I did here was actually created a specification table of contents folder within my Plans section to easily reference all the specifications. In this Files tab here, I'm able to keep all of the information such as those specifications or any RFIs or anything else needed to design or build the project. So this is just a way to house that information. The reason I put the specification table of contents here was because we're able to manually hyperlink all of these files directly to the plans itself. So why I think this is important is now I have an easy way to reference the specifications on this project and then quickly get to the actual spec sections. So in this case, you can see I've linked my different divisions directly to my table of contents. And to do this, you would just go to your markup toolbar over here, go over to the manual hyperlink. You see this paperclip, which will reference any files. I can drag and drop it to the location where I need to add new specification sections, and then I can type in the title of that spec section and add it directly to that plan. So any questions on our first workflow? So Andrew is asking if you're able to export out these drawings. Great question. Yes, you are absolutely able to export out these drawings, either one at a time or the entire set. So if I go back to my all plans section, I'm able to select them individually one by one or select the whole folder of them, go up to my actions, and then I'm able to export out this set. A couple things to note about this export is all of the markups, all the markups, links, and other information are going to be live, and I'm able to see information and the metadata about these specific markups. So if I click into this, I can see the details of it, and all of this information will carry over into that export, as well as those links to your specifications. So Alex asked, how do you easily compare sets when sheets might be added to later versions? Great question. So when sheets are added to later versions, those will just register in the system as a new sheet, and you won't actually need to compare them set to set. You can compare them drawing to drawing. So what I mean by that is when we looked at this A201, I can see that this automatically slip sheeted because of the sheet name. But if this were just a new sheet within the set, then I could compare it whenever I do create a new version of that sheet. So it's not done necessarily by set and more done by sheet. David asked, what are CD and what is DD? So DD was just our design set, as well as our CD, which was our construction documents. So the only reason I put CD and DD was just because this is the method that I'm used to naming our design document sets. But no matter how you typically name your sets, you can customize that in Fieldwire. Great. I'm going to move on to our second workflow. In this workflow, I'm on site during CA and need to capture information as I'm on site with photographs and information, and then quickly generate a report to memorialize the observations that I've made. What we have seen is a lot of our clients spending a ton of time snapping photos with their phone or camera, and then writing down notes on a notepad or on a printed set of plans. Then once back in the office, we see hours and hours of time spent assembling these reports. Fuse, one of our consulting engineers, reported saving 10 hours per week of time just on using Fieldwire to automate their reports. So a couple ways that we can use these reports is to document existing conditions as you're on site. verification of certain materials on site, so making sure that those specifications match what's actually being delivered and installed. And then more generally, just to document progress or any other inconsistencies when you're doing a punch walk. For today, I'm going to review an example where you're walking the exterior of a building, ensuring that the exterior metal panel system is installed correctly. Along the way, I'm going to document progress. To do this, I'm going to switch over to my mobile device. A couple notes is right now I am using my iPad device. We work on both iOS and Android devices, both tablets and phones. Right now I'm on my iPad, but I've turned it so that you're able to visualize what you would see if you were using a phone in the field. Like I mentioned during our first workflow, one thing that's very similar from project to project is the way that it's laid out. And so both on web and mobile, I have a list of all of the features, and then on the right-hand side, what those features lead to. So in this specific example, I'm going to go through my plans as if I were walking the site and going through and inspecting the exterior conditions. I'm easily able to swipe right to left to go from plan to plan, pinch my fingers in and out to see exactly what I need to see, and zoom into a specific location. Down here at the bottom right-hand corner, I have this up arrow where I'm able to access all of my markup tools. These are any highlights, any notes that you're seeing as you're walking around site, or just reminders to yourself. Up here at the top, and what we're going to focus on is this task pin, where I'm able to drag and drop my task into the specific location where I'm seeing some sort of observation, whether that's a deficiency, something that needs to be reported in a punch list, or just progress that I need to memorialize. I'll go ahead and select the pin and drag and drop it to the specific location where I'm seeing something to document. You'll notice that this task dialog box comes up, and I'm able to enter information into exactly what I'm seeing. In this case, I'm looking at the admin area main entrance. So I'm going to go ahead and title that. I'll use my message option here to add a title by just selecting the box. And then I can use talk to text to quickly enter information into this task since I'm on the go. Admin area main entrance. You'll notice that this first message will also become the title of this task. I can use this message to put any other information about what I'm observing. In this case, I'm going to go back to messages and put more context. Composite metal has been installed correctly, yet to complete panels at the canopy. So here I'm able to quickly enter where I am, what's going on specifically on that plan, and then information about what I'm observing or what needs to be done in the future. I'm also able to use this photo icon to quickly snap a couple photos to show exactly what I'm looking at. I have selected the photo icon. You'll have to work with me because we're still working from home. So I'm sure you guys can use your imagination and imagine just quickly snapping photos as you're going around doing your walk. This is the basis of a task, and this would take the place of adding notes to some sort of plan or document and then having to trace that information back into a report. If I go up here, I'm able to edit this task, and this will just allow me to enter more task details into the task itself. A thing to note about this is what you put into the task is what you get out of it. So you don't by any means need to put all of these bits of information in, but what you put in is what you can pull out. What I find most useful for our designers and architects is this category button. Categories are most commonly trades. The way that I've set this project up is to match those trades and information specifically with your CSI spec sections. Because we're looking at the exterior condition, I'm going to go ahead and put this in our thermal and moisture control. What this will do is just serve as our primary filter, so I'm able to capture bits and pieces of my observation and categorize them into these spec sections, and then later show the report based off of these spec sections. Later, we'll talk a little bit more about the rest of these attributes, but for the purposes of gathering information, this is the only bit of information that I'm going to put into the task. Now, if I go back to my project tab, I'm able to go to my task tab here, and this is where I can see all the different pieces of information that I gathered in my observation or site walk. I'm able to sort these tasks or bits of observations by the different codes, so I can see specifically what I've captured on concrete, masonry, metals, and so on. Also, once I've finished my report, even on the mobile device, I can send out the report. So I can go to this up arrow here and select that I want to send out my site observation report. I'll jump into the web version to show how to set this up whenever prior to going out on site. So now I'm back in the office in my web version. I can do this prior or after I do my site walk. I can go to my task tab and then go up to generate reports. Here, I'm able to see all of the different template reports that I've created. In this case, I've already created my site observation report template and can go into it and make sure it's configured the way I want. A thing to note there is once you set up the template once, you're good to go. I've gone ahead and selected that I want a detailed PDF, which is because I want to include and exclude all of these different pieces of information. So the messages, photos, etc. I've then gone in and said, okay, I only want to filter out the items that are open, and I want all categories included for all of the different observations that I've captured in the last day. If I do this site report on a weekly or monthly basis, I can schedule that report to go out accordingly. Otherwise, I can just send the report once I get back to the office or directly from my mobile device, as I just showed. Once it's all set up and configured, I'm able to get this report export. I'm able to put in your logo. It'll populate with a project name and address, and then it'll give me a little bit of information about what's included in that report. As I scroll down, I'll see the different headings that have to do with the different specification sections, and then all the observations or issues that I've noted, and photos and other documents attached. I'll open it up for questions for our second workflow. So Ali is asking, if you attach a file document to the Files tab, what is the maximum capacity storage for that file document? Great question. It's going to be 50 megabytes, so quite a bit of information, but also you did note that I split up the specifications into different sections. One, just because it's a more digestible format to go section by section, and two, because of that limitation. I think one thing to note, and kind of a mind shift switch for Fieldwire and loading that document, is as you're on site and you want to be able to reference a specific spec section, we want you to be able to quickly gather that information. And so just going to that section versus having to dig through your whole spec book. Great. I'm going to switch over to our final workflow. So now that you guys have gotten a taste of what you can do with tasks, I wanted to talk about how you can be a little bit more proactive with tasks and coordinate this work during earlier phases and stages of design. This can be internally with your team, with consultants that you partner with, and then later in the stage with GCs, potentially if you have design build contracts with them. What we'll do here is look at a very similar workflow that we looked at when you're on site using the mobile platform, you'll be able to drag and drop a task into a specific location where you're coordinating work or you have any constructability issues. And then we'll dive more into those task attributes and understand how you can organize, slice and dice these tasks and track these issues to resolution. One thing to note throughout this process is I know that a lot of this work tends to happen verbally through coordination meetings, through email, so lots of different channels of information. What's nice about doing it through Fieldwire is you have one source of truth to capture this information and then reference back 6 months down the line when you're like, why did we make that design change? I know there's a reason behind it, and we had all of these thoughts behind it, and then you can reference and see exactly why. So I'll switch back over. Once again, because we are more in the early stages of construction, I'm showing this on the web platform. This can be also done whenever you are on site or on the go. So many different ways to do this process, but I think most commonly you would use it as you are in the office coordinating work. So in this example, what I'm going to set the scene as is an architect working on the lighting package. You can basically create a task to coordinate with the lighting consultant, the electrical engineer, and any other parties involved with this work. In this case, we'll look at an instance where you're coordinating a detail for the corridor lights in a multifamily residential building. You and the lighting consultant have already come up with the design and lighting fixtures, but you want to confirm that the MEP FS systems will fit in the ceiling cavity and not impede on that 10-foot clear height of space. So I'm going to navigate over to our reflective ceiling plan because this is where I'm going to coordinate that work and where it really makes a difference. Similar to what we looked at on mobile, here's that markup toolbar with the task tab. I'm able to select it and drag and drop it into that specific location. I've already pre-populated this task because I wanted to show the back and forth communication and how it's all housed in one location. So in this case, I've titled my task as corridor lighting coordination. I started this as Andie and have talked about basically everything that we need to achieve in this and how I need Maggie, our electrical subcontractor, to send over the cut sheets and confirm that this fixture will in fact fit. This particular coordination item has a lot of different trades involved, and so I've gone ahead and added these hashtags. Hashtags are basically a secondary filter to your category. The reason I've put these hashtags here is because later down the line, when I want to understand what different coordination items had to do with architecture or electrical or any of the ones you see here, I can sort and filter by these hashtags. Whenever I'm adding hashtags to a task, I can either add them to this tag section here. You'll see that these match exactly what I've put with this hashtag symbol. Or just to make it simple, you can type in hashtag and put in maybe landscape or civil has to do with this, and you can post it directly into the message system and it will reflect into your tags. You can see here I've asked Maggie a question, and I've also attached the corridor lighting sketch that I wanted her to review. Maggie has then went and reviewed this issue. She noted that the lights will fit no problem as long as the plumbing line can move 2 feet to the north, and she's asking the plumbing engineer, Beth, if this is possible. So you can see here how we're able to go back and forth, communicate about an issue and coordination item, put all of the sketches and information into one spot, and then reference that later in the project. Where this rolls up is I'm able to go into my task tab here and see all the different coordination items on the project, all organized by those different specification sections and those hashtags of what consultants and people are involved in making that decision. One other thing I wanted to note is that within the task attributes, there's always the one assignee, which is that point of contact at that time who is pushing the work forward. So we talked about at first, I created that task and then I needed to assign it to Maggie to get some input, and then we needed to assign it to Beth. Anytime that we assign this out and assign it to a new person, you'll notice that we have over here what we call watchers. So I started out with this task as the assignee and then assigned it to Beth, but I'm still a watcher on this task, and I can add any other watchers from the project to the task. What this does is make sure that everyone is in the loop who needs to be, but there's still that one point of contact that's pushing the work forward at that point in time. So now I'm able to see all the tasks that are happening and where they are. A couple of things to note about tasks is the different statuses. So you can have a really high priority item that needs to be coordinated first, and then things that are just need to be kept on your radar and things that are upcoming in the future. Then we have completed and verified tasks where you're actually able to go in here. That point of contact, the assignee is able to complete the task and say, okay, we're good to go here. But then everyone else who's involved can make that decision that all the loops are closed out and we can in fact verify that task. I can go into the task and move these over to the different stages, or I can drag and drop them from location to location. As we talked about with the site observation report, we're also able to slice and dice this information and generate reports based off of certain open items. So I could create a report of all the open items that have to do with a certain category, or I can create all open items that I specifically have to work on, or one of my other consultants or team members has to work on. So this will just make sure everyone's accountable and you have all this information in one spot. I'll turn it over to questions for our third workflow and then open it up to any other general questions. So Weston is asking if there's any way to split the screen drawings to see a side-by-side for comparison. So there isn't a way to actually split the screen, but you can do that overlay, and then you can export that information out and do a side-by-side comparison if you need to. I'm curious for Weston, when you split out your screens, what are you typically looking for? Celine is asking if it's possible to use the program on a normal computer. Yes, absolutely. So I was going back and forth between the tablet and the computer. You can use both. The difference and factors that I would consider there is, are you setting up the project in your office? In that case, I would use the web platform where you're able to sign in just via a browser, where if you're on the go, maybe headed to a site or just not at your desk, that's when you would be able to use that tablet. Another thing to note specifically for this design and review coordination workflow is whenever assignees are assigned to a task, they're going to get an instant notification. So as you're basically coordinating with your consultants, going back and forth, it's almost as if you were texting, but that text thread is put into that task. So it keeps it all centralized to the coordination item that you're working on together. Tim just asked, are you expecting users to replace one drawing with an updated version once the coordination issues on that drawing are resolved? Great question. So I think at some point, yes, we will get an updated version, but like you know, it depends on where you are in that process. I'd say if you're in early stages of design, this might be captured in one of your revision sets that you publish out later down the line, where if this is more in the later stage, it might be captured in a construction bulletin or an ASK. In either case, what you can do is either publish out that new revision or capture all the information into that ASK and then manually hyperlink it like we were doing with the submittals to that location on the plan. So what I mean by that is, if we have this task in a certain location, we resolve it and put an ASK directly to it. I can zoom into that location, drag and drop the ASK to where that task lived, and then show the basically presentable version of all of our coordination versus having someone have to go down that list of back and forth communication and know all the ins and outs when they just need the end product and result. Matthew is asking, does Fieldwire provide its own cloud storage, or do you require a Dropbox/OneDrive account for storage? Great question. Own cloud storage. The Dropbox and OneDrive are just an option if you are already using that for your file storage, as a two-way sync to make sure that everything in the system is then pushed and pulled to your Dropbox and OneDrive. A couple other things about this is it's going to keep all the current drawings that you've loaded into Fieldwire and vice versa the same. And then what it will do is also pull any of your markups and different information that you've put on the drawing into a different folder in your Dropbox and OneDrive as an as-built. All right, well, thank you all for all of your great questions. There are a lot of questions in the queue, so if I didn't get to your question today, I will definitely reach out via email or call, and we will go from there. Thank you again for your time, and I hope that this was helpful in getting to understand how architects and designers can use Fieldwire in the future. Hope you all have a great day. Thank you.